Welcome to the Sydney Property Muppets podcast. My name is Kurt Lawther. I'm the real estate agent, and with me forever is
Chris Clark, the buyer's agent.
Mate, you're stunning, you're handsome, one of the greatest blokes I ever know.
Mate, just on that note, as it is every week, let's crack open a beer just for those viewers at home and unveil some of the secrets. We actually do 4 episodes. So this is the 4th one we've done this evening.
Yep, so cheers.
The other one's been published last 3 weeks. So we crack open a tinny to celebrate this one.
Good old tinny.
You're talking about you had a meeting this week. You bumped into somebody. It was a bit of an interesting take. They hadn't called you back, I believe.
They hadn't called me back. No, so I was at a networking event, I should say, and a buyer's agent that I know quite decently, get along quite well. She rocked up, sat down, and I turned to her. I was like, "How you going?" She's like, "Hey." I was like, "Still waiting for a call." She's like, "What do you mean?" I was like, "I called you." And she's like, "Oh," and she's like, "I'm so sorry. I've recently changed agencies as a buyer's agent." Now, that happens in the real estate industry, but in the buyer's agent industry, I'm like, I don't know what kind of effect, with people changing. Now, my opinion and sort of just, I guess, a stereotype would be a lot of buyer's agents that start up often start their own after they might be with someone, but then they'll go out after a year or two.
They're part of an established one, whether it's a boutique or something.
Yeah.
And then their next move is usually to be by themselves, not to join another established competitor.
Yes, and I was just wondering, I was like, I wonder how that, now you might have a different opinion. I was like, I don't think it would affect maybe too much, just the way you also gather clients compared to real estate agents, selling agents. But thoughts?
Oh yeah, well,
is there do you think there is an effect with changing?
Well, I was part of another firm before, and I left and became independent, on my own with Clark Buyers Agents. So there was very strong non-compete clauses in there. They were quite nice overall because it was more like if they gave me a client, I couldn't call that client. Okay, that makes sense. But while I worked there, I was lucky enough, I worked there and I got a client, and then I went away and still won them as a client, then they signed up, there wasn't a penalty. But in most places, there is actually a penalty, even if you brought them on or not, it doesn't matter. The real estate industry is a lot, I could say fierce, but a lot more stringent. This has happened multiple times where agencies have lost somebody and then been burnt. So I think there's quite strong T's and C's about what you can and can't do. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, fair to say. I happen to know some that are fighting cases at the moment or have been penalised.
And I think that's part you just hinted earlier on about there's a patch. So I think particularly when you're with a real estate agent firm and you're working in one area and you join a competitor in the same area, well, all your clients still live in those same houses.
Yep.
As a buyer's agent, we might be still buying those same houses, but we might be helping a buyer moving from Singapore or Brisbane or somewhere else. So it could be coming from anywhere, whereas you're literally still targeting that same market.
Yeah.
What are the other knock-on effects?
Well, the other knock-on effects is, for example, you might be going to sell with an agent, and there could be, often most agents would have some sort of proof. I know it can be difficult to prove, but there would probably be some sort of proof point that you have been contacting this person, and if you need to sell and your agent suddenly changes agency and there is a bit of a kerfuffle, but you really like the agent, you may have to wait a certain period of time before you can go on the market.
With that agent in their new firm, new firm effectively.
With that new firm, I think that's probably the most it will directly affect someone with their timing of the sale and the actual sale. What's something people might want to be aware is why do agents change? Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing?
And for buyers agents, it can happen as well, right? So a few of the reasons I think of you do is you might join a brand that is more established.
Yep.
So that it has a bigger brand presence. So it's a bit easier to say, I'm calling from so-and-so. That's a large established rather than like a boutique. Or it could be the opposite. You might leave a large established to join a boutique because you want the flexibility. The large ones have potentially more stringent, more thorough process. Not thorough, or maybe, but also more stringent processes. So you want to join a boutique that's you can be a bit more creative in your approach with not only securing business, but also how you market a property.
Yeah. Well, I do know one particular organisation that when they list a property, you have to use a set amount of advertising on something or spend a set amount. And if the vendors don't want to do it, the agents have to pay it.
Oh, wow.
I'm not going to say which agency,
Fair. And I see some smaller boutique ones where we see some large one, they do like the really polished video. Welcome to, here I am in 123 Smith Street. But you see some of the smaller ones do like almost like funny meme type videos that almost get they almost go viral in their approach. Larger established firms have got big policies going, you can't do that.
Yep.
But the smaller ones are going, well, we need a point of difference here.
Yeah. Well, I've even seen, I think this video might have been an American one, and they're a different kettle of fish, but it was a guy, real estate agent, just zooming around a house, being like, this is a 3-bedroom. Like,
I've seen that one.
Yeah, and he's going crazy. And I'm like, that brilliant, but there's no way you're seeing that at one of the big franchises here in Australia, McGrath, LJ Hooker, Ray White. That's just...
He's not going to see it. No,
but I'm sure
he probably wasn't part of a very large established franchise there.
Where I've also seen, and I will give, I can't remember the agency, it was a decent firm, but there've been some real classy videos where there was this golf one, and they were teeing off from the balcony of the into the golf, and then it just became like a golf, like it was just entertaining. So they can be done well. Anyway, long story short, listen.
Well, I was also going to say, so other reasons you may join, just from a selfish standpoint, there could be better commissions.
Yep.
Better salary, better benefits. You might have started off as a single, and you're a family man or woman with kids, and that company you're joining has better policies around that. It might be just a higher salary. It might be the base salary or the salary you take home that's guaranteed before bonuses or commission is at a higher level.
Yep.
It could be shares. It could be that they've moved in there. There's an opportunity to be a partner or to invest and actually have a partake in the business. Yep. That is attractive to a lot of some of the boutiques will offer that. Yep. Whereas like the very large established ones, like you can buy shares in us, but you can't. We're not giving you a slice.
There's other ones which is probably more on the negative side. A lot of people, we recently got
negative one too.
Yeah, we recently got challenged on this because we were pitching for a listing, and we got asked. For those that don't know, I'm in an independent agency, quite a large independent, but so our office is in one spot. We were coming up against other agents from franchises or quite large organisations that have multiple offices, and they sort of posed the question, why would we not go with them when they've got such a large team and all these extra data,
these extra people basically working for us.
Working and all the extra data.
Well, that was their perception.
It was their perception. And then we're picking the bits that we think are positive for us, is saying that with a lot of those, even though they appear they're one big brand, and I'm not going to say the brands, but just one big brand, often franchises, they're often working still in teams of small teams. It might be like a solo agent, could be a solo agent with one associate and maybe an admin person. Yep. There could be a shared admin person.
Yeah, basically they're paying a franchise fee to have the brand, but they're working in silos.
One advantage, which I'm more than happy to say with my company, Shed Property, is we've got an open database, which means that all the data is shared, and there's no in-house fighting about who gets, like if you've got a buyer, it's like, brilliant, bring it. It's generally for the client. Whereas I do know a lot of...
Well, I know when I go to some properties and I'm dealing with the same agency, they're like, they're logging me in as if I'm a brand new person. Like, oh, we don't have your details. And I'm like, telling my details. I purchased a property of that same company a week earlier. Yep. And I go to another suburb and I do the whole thing again because even though they're all part of it, their databases are closed and siloed off. Yep. And it's frustrating. And for me, it's frustrating because there's not the memory of what I just purchased with you last week. Oh, did you?
Yeah.
I don't know.
And so what can happen often, the business, and I don't blame them, they're going to pitch, we've got such a large database, but do they really? What is their database? Whereas like us, we can truthfully say that
we have access to it.
We've not only got residential, we've got commercial, industrial, all. So just because there's this big brand doesn't necessarily mean it's one big happy family as well. Often there can be, not always, sometimes I do know there's some really good companies out there or franchises that do work really well, but it's just this perception. And so some people do move because the culture is actually not what they wanted. Yeah. It's not that great. Another company might have the better culture, work-life balance. Sure. Not everyone wants to work 17 hours a day.
And look, there are also, let's one thing we haven't talked about, which is maybe the elephant in the room. There are times when somebody leaves and joins another competitor because they've been kicked out. Like they've done something actually wrong,
Yep.
either legally or demonstrative or something in that organisation. They move. They're not going to say that. They're going to portray it positively. These are the reasons why, but
Can I tell you a funny story?
may as well.
It will be super quick.
Unlikely.
We'll make it quick. So even in real estate in New South Wales, it's very hard. Like even government jobs, it's very hard to fire people. You have to royally mess up to get fired. And same with real estate. You just can't go around being like, we don't like you anymore, get rid of you. I'm sure there's ways and around. However, this boss said to this guy said to a trainer, "Oh, it's really easy to move people on." It's like, "What do you mean?" It's like, "I just promote them."
What does that do?
Well, if you promote them, it gets put on all the social medias, and all the recruitment agencies come. And if that person knows they're sort of not in the good books or out of it, it's like, well, you're better off to go out while you're on a high.
Quite clever.
And that way, it's sort of
and you're basically giving someone else a lemon with
a lemon that looks like a Ferrari.
Okay. That was a good story, buddy. It's probably one of the best ones you've given.
And those are short.
It was actually short. Very good. Okay, so on me this week to ask you some questions. Now, as always, we are looking, not always, but at the moment, looking for sponsors. Love sponsors.
Oh yeah, sponsors.
And I figure this one we're going to call.
Who's our cameraman?
Jez.
Note that down, please.
Note that down. So this one's called All About Maccas. This is the segment. So this number one, your lunchtime. This is not hungover, not drinks, nothing at all. It's your absolute. What is your go-to meal?
What's the chicken lettuce mayo? The McChicken.
Chicken, small fries, regular fries.
I've got to go large fries.
And drink.
Vanilla shake.
Okay. So next one.
Yep.
Not dessert. Right, but you're stumbling in. This is like 1, 2 a.m. in the morning.
At Macca's?
Of course, Macca's. They're hopefully sponsoring.
Oh yes, Macca's. Thank you. McFlurry with 2 shots of the M&Ms going in, at least 2 flakes, and maybe if I'm feeling it, up for some chalky sauce in there.
I don't know if your ears are still working, but I said not dessert.
Oh, not dessert.
So that was my third question: with what you do to McFlurry, because I saw today your Insta post of the M&Ms. But if it was 2 a.m. again, this time the McFlurry machine, the ice cream machine, not working, what do we get? It has to be savoury.
So, probably a cheeseburger.
Cheeseburger, just single?
Yeah, but I'll probably go like 3.
Yeah, of course you will. Well, there you go. That's the episode of the week. I hope you're all listening. I think that was a good one. I like the fact we talked about the good, the bad, the ugly of agents, whether it's buyers. We talked a lot about real estate agents, but it applies to buyers agents as well.
Well, I think it's something that it's going to become more of a thing as buyers agents. I think there's going to be, the brands will grow, more brands will grow.
Yep.
It will become harder for smaller companies to get a foothold.
Probably, yeah. Same as real estate agents, yeah. As in what they were like originally.
Time
will tell.
Yeah, so time will tell. But I thought, interesting chat.
Okay, on you for homework this week.
I would actually like you to go and tell a family member. So, yes, would love you to share, but tell a family member to watch an episode.
Of the Sydney Property Muppets.
Sydney Property Muppets. Hey, Chris, who was the legend that came up with that name?
Don't know. Thanks for dropping by. I think it was Jez.